decided to wear shorts. He had not worn shorts his whole life. His legs were wider than the glory of God. They were blinding people. Not only that, he didn't have any tennis shoes, so he wore his black dress shoes with black socks. I didn't tell anyone we were related. But knowing my father was there, I played harder. I scored more points. They say white men can't jump. That day I got in the air. I did things that even surprised me. All because I knew someone was watching me. Someone was cheering for me. I wanted to make them proud. Even now, when I'm tempted to get discouraged, or tempted to think an obstacle is too big, I just imagine that my Father is still watching me. He's in the grandstands of heaven saying, come on, Joel, I lived in my day. This is your day. Show them what you have. Be strong. Take big steps. Pray bold prayers. Shine brightly. There are people in heaven right now cheering you on. Relatives that have gone before you. They're rooting for you, saying, do something great. Make us proud. Run with purpose. When those voices whisper, you're alone. It doesn't matter. Just settle where you are. By faith, you need to hear your loved ones cheering you on. My grandfather, on my mother's side of the family, had a rough childhood. His mother died when he was 5. 3 years later, his father came home from working out in the woods with a terrible pain in his side. They took him by horse and buggy to a hospital 4 hours away. The middle of the night, my grandfather received a telegram saying that his father had died. The next day, he and his uncle went to the train station to pick up his body. I can imagine what was going through my grandfather's mind as an 8-year-old little boy riding a horse with his father in a casket behind him, wondering who would take care of him, where would he live, so uncertain of his future. Nobody really wanted my grandfather. He was passed from house to house. His uncle made him live out in the barn, didn't treat him like his own child. Granddaddy left home at 16 and joined a bridge gang. Eventually, he got a job at a refinery. He worked for Humboldt Oil, now Exxon, for 40 years. He never missed a day of work. He was faithful. He endured hardships. He overcame injustice. At Exxon, they had a program where you could take part of your salary in stock. All of his friends took their whole salary in cash, spent it each week. But Granddaddy took the stock option and never touched it. The most he ever made was $14,000 a year. But when he retired, the dividends from his stock each year were 4 times more than he ever made. He would come up to the old church and do odd jobs. I would see him under the portable buildings, fixing the plumbing. He built his own house for $2,600 and lived there for 60 years. I think about how my grandfather made it with so much less than I have. He didn't have a good childhood, didn't have parents to guide him. He didn't have an education. Yet he overcame all these obstacles and still went on to fulfill his purpose and leave our family better than it was before. If my grandfather could make it through all that he went through, surely I can make it through what comes against me. Our ancestors, our relatives, they made it without electricity, without automobiles, without medical treatments that we have, without Netflix. If they didn't faint in their mind, if they made sacrifices to put us ahead, surely we can do it. Well, I'm irritated because my cell phone dropped a call. They would ask, what's a cell phone? You mean you can talk to people like that? Traffic was bad. I got stuck sitting in my car. They'd ask, what's a car? You mean you can travel in comfort? Are you complaining about things that they would have dreamed to have? In comparison to what they've been through, most of what we face are light afflictions. Some of you have relatives that suffered great injustice because of their nationality, because of the color of their skin. They were mistreated, as seen as second class, not valued, not respected. They endured all that hardship without getting bitter. Working in the fields with no pay, they didn't complain. While they suffered, they sang hymns. They didn't have freedom, but it didn't stop their praise. They didn't live defeated. They kept thanking God, knowing that He was in control and that justice was coming. We are living in the day they dreamed about. They went through too much for you to settle where you are. They sacrificed too greatly for you to give up on what God put in your heart. They're up in those grandstands watching you, saying, run, baby, run. That's why we worked, so that you could excel, so that you could write that book, so that you could teach that class, so that you could start that business, so that you could own your company, so you could go further. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for those that went before you. They handed you the baton. All the sacrifices they've made have put us further down the road. The way we honor their legacies is to go further, to dream bigger, to take new ground. And sure, life can be difficult, but it's nothing compared to what they endured, with what my grandfather went through, with what I've seen my parents sacrifice. I feel too responsible to settle where I am, to just rest in what they accomplished, to just go as far as they did. We're supposed to leave our families better off than they were before. Hebrews 11 says, all these heroes of faith, the saints of old, even though they did their best, none of them received all that God promised. They didn't see the fullness of what God had in store. But since Jesus has come, we are the generation under the new covenant. We're living in a better day. We are seeing the fulfillment of what they only dreamed about. How this should stir us up to stay passionate, to believe big, to take new ground. It's easy to let these light afflictions discourage us. Somebody's talking about us, trouble at work, we didn't get the contract. Quit letting those light things keep you from running with purpose. When life gets tough, look up and listen up. You'll hear your loved ones cheering you on. You'll hear the saints of old saying, this is your day. Stay strong. You are well able. My father was raised during the Great Depression. He grew up with no money, no opportunity. He didn't have a car. He had to hitchhike. He kept taking steps of faith, and God opened bigger doors. One church where he pastored, after years of building it and sowing into the people, some of them didn't like his new message of faith and victory.